All right, let's welcome in Matisse. Matisse, thank you so much for joining us. We were just discussing this. This is like your first real podcast you've done, right?
Yeah. I was saying I did Danny's last year, but it was not in person. So it's my first time I've ever done like a longer format in-person podcast.
So basically, you're saying that Danny's podcast is not a real podcast.
Oh my gosh. No.
Welcome to the show.
What did I sign up for?
Interesting.
We were saying before, and we're going to get to this later, but like, it's surprising for us that you haven't, because anyone who's watching this on our YouTube, I've a hard time believing they will not know about your YouTube prowess, but you are by far, like, not even close, by far the most gifted current or professional athlete on that particular platform. Like, it's actually crazy, some of the shit you've put out.
Wow. That's probably the greatest compliment I've ever received, basketball included.
It's like crazy. We were watching it on the way down here. We were like, what? How does this guy do this and also play?
Yeah, I mean, it's what I like to do. It's like what I'm passionate about.
What we should just dive into this now, because I have some questions. So
Let me hear 'em.
Apparently you edit all of it?
Yeah.
You shoot and edit all of it?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, the only thing I don't do is like when you see the thumbnail on YouTube, like I don't make that. Or sometimes if like a name pops up, actually that's not even true. I do that half the time. I do everything.
Where did this passion come from? And by the way, this whole thing started with the bubble.
Yeah, that was my first public.
Okay, so what's really fascinating to me about this was like it's like a perfect confluence of events. When you think about it, there was no other professional league that actually went to a bubble other than the WNBA and the NBA, right?
Yeah.
The two basketball leagues, and that's it.
Yeah.
And there was this insane curiosity about what the bubble was like.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of stepped into this void that, like, and we did it as well with the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
but not to the video quality that you had, because we were doing shitty Zooms. But it's like, it was like this perfect timing for everything. And so where did this come from, and the decision sort of to go public with this at the bubble?
I mean, I started in college making videos. Like my friends were into photo video stuff. The girl I was dating at the time was into it. I would like make vlogs for her. So like, cause we were doing a long distance relationship. So I was like, that's when I really started vlogging, was like these very personal things.
That's so romantic.
I'm somewhat of a romantic, hopeless romantic. But yeah, so it started with that. And then me and my friends would do adventures, that kind of stuff, make videos. But none of it was ever anything anyone was supposed to see. And then bubble rolls around and I'm going back and forth with my friends, like kind of understanding the situation, especially media-wise, that the lack of coverage and the potential of what could come of me putting something out there. And I get extremely nervous, like everything that goes into like putting yourself out there like that. But ultimately my friends kind of just convinced me, like, yeah, you should just do it. And then I just didn't look back.
This is, are you Generation Z? I'm not really, you're 97. I'm not sure what generation you fall into. I feel like this is a very, I was actually thinking about this on the train ride down, because like when I was a rookie last year at the bubble, you were a rookie. We didn't even have iPhones yet.
What generation are you?
I think I'm a millennial.
Baby boomer?
No, I think
You missed the boomer cutoff. I was thinking that.
I missed it by 4 years. No, so we didn't have iPhones.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's this whole like ecosystem that young NBA players get to tap into now that just really wasn't available to us, my generation of players, until we were, old and curmudgeon, basically, and parents. We were like, it was like something, it just passed us by.
Yeah.
And you guys get to tap into this really cool ecosystem, and not just with tech, but in the investing world and all this stuff that when we were young players, it just wasn't there for us.
No. Yeah, it's actually funny you bring up Apple and like that ecosystem. I'm like halfway through Steve Jobs' biography right now, and it's been fascinating. But yeah, his whole thing was like, we're going to put a dent in the universe. And like, as you just said, they very much did. Like he created, through like Apple and the competition of the tech industry, an opportunity for my generation to create an environment that like the boomer generation couldn't even dream of. That's why it's so hard for like older people to get caught up to speed, because conceptually, these thoughts couldn't even exist. And now we have this opportunity to, like, for me, people talk about the marketing and the content stuff. Like, I don't do it for any of the marketing reasons, but it's been like a convenient side effect of what I've been able to create. And it's just, I feel like just now getting tapped into from an athlete's perspective, especially in terms of the influencer world and stuff, and the ability that we have to market ourselves as individuals.
I have a question for both of you guys. This will certainly date me, but what your first phone that you ever had? Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was a Rumor Touch. Yeah, it had a slide-up keyboard.
Did you
it was
have the
baby
flip phone
blue.
ever?
Yeah, in college.
I had a Sprint. I had like a Sprint. I forget what brand.
You were in college.
I was in college. Well, the reason I was gonna say, so I had the Nokia. You guys don't even.
The brick.
Yeah, it's like a brick
like
thing,
little,
and it had one game on it. It was the snake game where you tried to get the little dot or whatever. And I got the upgraded version when I went to college, so I was able to send like late night texts to booty calls, basically, which was pretty awesome. And then I got a flip phone, I think, going into my junior year, and it was like pre-camera phone. And then I got a flip phone with a camera.
Yeah,
but it was like super blurry. Thank God. Some shit that I did in college. Might have been on the interweb.
If you're reading between the lines, but JJ in college was not a good person.
This is a refined version we get to see now.
This is speaking of refined, we should probably bring up the sunglasses.
Well, we were going to. Do you want to explain?
Somebody had to.
I mean, we're a few minutes into it. We might as well. But yeah, I mean, we're recording this on Tuesday, the 21st. Earlier this morning, I announced my retirement. And it's been just a little bit of an emotional sort of 12 to 15 hours, especially this morning. And so I just to provide some eye coverage, if you know what I mean, I'm just going to leave the shades on for the show.
Can I say something about that? Yeah. When I was getting treatment today, and like our media people came in to prep me for this because they all knew that I was coming in here to do this. And they come in and they're like, oh, did you see what JJ put out? And I was like, no. Like, oh, he's retiring. I was like, what? I took it very personally. Like, why would you choose the day that you're going to have me on the podcast to retire? Like, I genuinely was like upset. Like, that's too much pressure for, like I said, this is my first real podcast I'm coming on.
What if you had canceled? Like, you know what? I'm out.
I was like, why me?
Well, this was scheduled well in advance. The announcement for today kind of came about on Friday. It wasn't until like 12 days ago.
I think you should be honored.
Clarity.
Yeah, you get the eyeballs thing. This is a big week.
It's a lot of like, you should feel my heartbeat.
But the combination of the biggest NBA YouTuber there is and the retired guy and his
the retired guy. That's your new label now.
Well, listen, I just wanted to say, like, I am a professional podcaster, so despite the events of today, I showed up to my job today. Yeah. You know, despite I showed up to my job
with a smile on his face.
Yes, he did. Sunglasses and everything.
Do you have directors or anything like that you're a fan of?
Yeah, you could consider him a director. Casey Neistat is a YouTuber.
Oh, I just met him.
Really?
Yeah, in New York.
What?
Super cool guy.
Dude, my dream.
He has his own, in New York, he has his own studio. That's the place that I want us to record our show in Soho.
Is it a 368?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I went there on draft night, like the day before the draft, because I'm like such a big fan. I like DM'd 368. I was like, hey, can I just come see the space? They let me in and did all the thing.
Well, when we do the follow-up to this, we'll do it at 368.
Dude,
I feel like that's the move.
Oh my God.
We'll bring Casey on too.
But so you don't have any like film directors or anything like that. It's more like the YouTube.
No,
space.
YouTube. Like I don't even know if I can appreciate like film directors and everything they do, because like YouTube is such a specific style. It's so simple, and you see, like, you can get it right or you don't, and you feel it very quickly when you tune into a video.
Do you know Kenny Beecham?
No.
Oh, you shout out to Kenny. This is our guy. There's a guy, Kenny Beecham. He's from Chicago. He's a fan. He's been on the show, sort of a friend of the show. He's been on a few times. I think he's 22 or 23 now, but he basically started making, I'm going to butcher his story, so he's going to get mad at me, but he started making videos when he was like 12 or 13, just at home, talking about the NBA, and he's a big fan, and he's a very charismatic kid, and he's a very charismatic guy now. And now he has like millions of followers all over the place, and it's all authentic. Like he didn't need anybody to put him on. Yeah. You know what I mean? He just did it himself.
Wow.
How much time do you spend on YouTube relative to, let's say, Instagram or Twitter?
YouTube dominates.
70% of your time?
Yeah.
Like on your social media time?
I mean, of just like screen time. Like I don't even really watch TV or movies that much. I'll watch, if I need something to watch and I can't find anything, I'm like, ugh, I'll just throw on like one of Casey Neistat's old vlogs. Like I'll do that over like trying to get into a TV show.
Very interesting. Because I did not spend much time on YouTube until we started with this. We started our own YouTube channel. We started putting the pods on YouTube. It was actually pre Old Man and the Three, because we put up Jimmy's pod and then Duncan's pod right before the pandemic started.
Jimmy's pod blew up,
and it blew up. And then I like started like watching other pods or watching other videos and channels of stuff I was interested in. And now like I'm the same way. My screen time, like if kids are in bed, Chelsea goes to sleep early, like I'll pull up my computer and I'll go to the different golf channels and I'll just watch like 3 hours of content on YouTube. It's wild. Yes, Tommy. What do you have something to say? Something to add to that?
Just think it's funny. This guy's reading Steve Jobs' biography and probably like watching a lot of really like educational, interesting stuff, and you're just watching golf for 3 hours. It's like, just go to sleep.
I watch other stuff. I watch all of the sort of the deep dives on any Christopher Nolan movie. I watch that on YouTube as well.
This is, dude, it's so crazy. We talk about this on the show. We talk about the show all the time. JJ's only seen like 9 movies, and 6 of them have been directed by Christopher Nolan. And so he just goes on and on. So we had Matthew McConaughey come on the show as a guest, and he was in Interstellar. And he was like, amazing. The whole conversation, and by the way, like it's cool, like he liked it and everything like that, but the whole conversation is about this one movie. Like the guy's been in 50 movies, you bring up anything else, it's just like Interstellar. That's
amazing movie though.
Yeah, it is an amazing movie.
It really is. You mentioned the draft, and I want to kind of talk about sort of leading up to the draft and draft night. But I think the first time we ever met, like we talked about this, but like you and I were supposed to play together.
Yeah.
Like you kind of had like, because we lost to Toronto, they wanted to get bigger on the wing. I think Philly, like they made enough of an offer that, you know, they wanted to bring me back. And I think they indicated to you like, oh yeah, JJ's going to be back. I know they told Al that. They told Al I was coming.
Yeah.
Al thought he was going to play with me.
Yeah.
Talk about that just pre-draft process, and they kind of zeroed in on you. It was a little bit of a telegraph. When did you sort of know, like, I'm going to Philly?
I feel like enough time has passed. I knew for a long time, not like that long, but like I knew for over a month before the draft exactly where I was going. And Philly what can I say?
Not gonna get anybody trouble, I don't think. It's not tampering. It's a draft.
Well, I'll just say this: we had Michael Porter on last week, and he specifically was like, the Clippers doctor said I'll never play in the NBA. And that's why. So it's like, no, it's just fine. It's like,
yeah, it was. So I get done with my college season. I start training, and it's starting to get to the time where like workouts are starting with teams, and Philly had apparently been interested in me since like my junior year of college, and I was now a senior, graduated. And so when it came time to start working out, my agent comes to me, he's like, so Philly has made a proposition, essentially. Like they proposed that they give you, I think, they call it a promise? Yeah. Like a promise to pick you with their whatever. I think they're supposed to be like the 22nd?
24th, I think.
24th pick, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And at this point, like, my brain's all scrambled about this NBA thing. I've watched countless guys go, and I feel like they didn't have to do anything. They were like a shoo-in. Like from Markelle Fultz to DeJounte Murray, like these guys, I felt like their path was very different. So when it came to my turn, I was like, well, I mean, I've never heard of this. What is this? And why would I want to take a promise over just betting on myself and see how high I could go? And I went back and forth with my agent and my dad, and basically they made it clear to me that Philly was an opportunity where they wanted and needed my skill set. And I think that's something that's not really appreciated by young players coming in, because they're like, oh, I'm just trying to be a lottery pick. I'm trying to make all this money. But what people don't realize, like, it's so hard to stick. Like, you should take the pay cut at the beginning, because at the end of the day, that's not where the real money is. Get into a team that wants you and believes in you. And I mean, I think you can see it in how my career, I mean, I've played 2 years, but I've had a successful 2 years because of this opportunity, because my skill set isn't necessarily, if a team doesn't really want me or believe in me or want to win, like I could have fizzled out pretty early.
Your skill set value is exponentially higher on a team like Philly, a championship contender, a team that needs switching defenders, lockdown defenders, guys that can guard primary scorers. I 100% agree, and I think it's rare actually that a young player does have that perspective as they enter the draft. You know, most guys are just like, I want to go as high as possible. You know, and even I can remember, you know, my draft. Like I was looking, I didn't know a ton about the NBA. I didn't watch a ton of NBA like in college. I was so into like college basketball. So like my thing was like, all right, if I'm the 8th pick, I get paid this much. And like at the time, like the difference between the 8th pick and 11th pick was probably only like $1 million. But $1 million to me at the time was insane amount of money. So I'm like, I want to be the 8th pick. I want to be the 7th pick, whatever it was. It was like more important for me then. But you look back now and it really is all about situation and being in the right fit.
Yeah. And so when I was able to understand that, we were like, yeah, let's do it. We'll take the, like, hit Philly back. We'll take the promise. And now it's a matter of keeping the secret. So it's like, I remember it was like 7 weeks until the draft at this point when we agreed to this. And it's like, okay, so I have 7 weeks where I can't tell. I didn't tell my sister. Like, my dad might have known, but like, and you know how it is, like, everyone's asking who have you worked out for? Like, guys who are in your draft class, like, hey, did you go work out with so-and-so? Or like, are you coming to the combine? And I'm just over here just trying to, like, I try to be a truthful person, but I'm like over here trying to make up lies and be as convincing as possible of like, oh no, we're waiting for workouts. It's like, dude, the draft.
Wait, so you didn't work out for anybody?
So I worked out for Philly, but this was.
That's a red flag if I've ever heard of a red flag. Before.
Like I didn't work out for
nobody.
No, like nobody. But I'm telling people like, no, I'm waiting. Yeah. I worked out for Philly. It was like I was working out with a trainer he lived in Milwaukee at the time. So I was going to Milwaukee to work out at some Division III school, middle of nowhere. And Philly you guys were in a series with, were you guys in a series with Chicago or something? Or
it was Brooklyn, then Toronto.
So it was Brooklyn, and they flew into Chicago and then drove to Milwaukee because they didn't want anyone to like be able to tie the strings, whatever. And so so Elton and Mark Eversley, they come to watch me work out, and this is like this covert operation, like because at this point nobody knows what's going on, like nobody's supposed to know. And we go to this little gym at like 7:30 in the morning. They pull up in like the black Escalade, blackout windows. Like I'm shitting bricks. Like I'm freaking out. This is because I haven't worked out in front of anybody. I've just been me and my trainer all summer. And we get in there. First of all, they're hiding in the gym because they don't want, if anyone came in, they didn't want to be seen. So they're like in this gym behind a wall, watching like around the corner.
I'm gonna text EB right now.
Oh god, I feel like I really shouldn't be saying this.
No, it's great.
And so, I mean, yeah, workout. The only thing notable about the workout was I airballed my first shot, and that was like devastating. But I was able to recover, and it all worked out in the end. But yeah,
I have a question for both of you about this kind of process. They do all this. You make the promise. But what is stopping another team who has a smart scout or a smart GM or whatever from just being like, oh, Matisse fits, like we're just going to pick him?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's not like it's the second pick in the draft where.
No. Yeah, that was like the fear. Ultimately, that's why like it was so serious that I keep the secret because it gave other teams leverage. And ultimately, I ended up, for those who don't know, getting drafted by Boston because they thought that OKC was just going to risk it. Like I did some medical stuff for Philly too as well before the draft, so they knew like I wasn't broken. And OKC, I think, was just going to be like, we'll just take our chances. And then Philly was like, no, we're not having that. So they arranged something with Boston. So Boston drafted me for Philly, and Philly drafted someone for them. We made the switch.
And I think there was an exchange of picks as well.
Yeah.
To compensate Boston for taking you earlier and all that stuff.
You would have been a good fit in Boston too.
Did you know all that stuff was going down on draft night? Were you privy to that information? Like when Boston picked, I always find it fascinating when a guy gets drafted on draft night and then gets traded 5 minutes later. Did you know all that was happening?
I didn't know any of that until I actually got invited to the green room barely. They like they added 2 half tables so that me and like one other person could be there. Sure, this tiny picnic table in like the corner of the green room.
Come, don't bring anyone else.
No, literally, it was like me, my agent, my dad, my sister. That was it. Everyone else was like 10, their whole family. No, so like a couple picks before, like, you see like the agents lean over and whisper. You never know what they're talking about. My agent did that, and I was like, what's going on? And he's like, Boston's going to draft you, and then they're going to trade you. It's all good. Like, stick to it. The plan is still whatever. I was like, okay. Then the cameras come over, and the whole thing.
I have some follow-up questions on Washington.
Okay.
So first of all, you mentioned your junior year. I think you were National Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year that year as well?
I was like Pac-12.
Just Pac-12.
Yeah.
Did you think about leaving after your junior year?
Yeah. College is tough, right? Anyone who's played 4 years of college sports knows how grueling it is. And by my junior year, I'd kind of reached like a breaking point. And I was like, I'm a fairly stubborn individual, and it's something I'm working on. But at that point in college, I was like telling my dad and my mentors, like, I'm done. I'm going to enter the draft. Either I get drafted and it's all good, and I don't, and I'll just be a travel photographer. Like, I don't know. And I was like set in stone on this idea. And then they were able to like wear me down enough to not go through with that, because of just the projections for me were like late second round, like who knows what's going to happen. And that's like a very dicey, like scary area to be in. So they were able to talk me out of it. And like, to my surprise, I was able to build on what I had just done and have an even better season.
Did you overlap with Markelle?
Yeah. My sophomore year, it was his freshman year.
Okay, so not a lot of people watched him play in college because he was, no offense, but he was on Washington. And it's also the West Coast.
Yeah.
I about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, whatever, I just like I did like a deep dive on all of his YouTube stuff at Washington. Can you just kind of describe him as a player, like pre-shoulder injury?
Oh.
How just insanely talented he was at scoring the basketball.
He would do, I mean, aside from, like, you can find the highlights on YouTube of what he did in games. I don't even know what he averaged, 20 plus, which is unheard of in college. The things he would do in practice, like, he would do this thing where he would wiggle his way around, end up on the baseline. And because he was such a good passer, he'd be looking at someone in the corner and shoot a no-look reverse layup. Like, he would do that consistently. And it was to the point where, like, we kind of got desensitized to it, because at first, like, it would kind of stop, like, shut down practice. Because he'd do some things, make a pass, like, do these no-look layups, and we'd have to stop and, like, recoup and then get back on track. But, yeah, he was such a unique, he had such a unique style of play, which he's getting back to him, which I'm really happy to see. But it's the way he uses the spin move and all those, like, this, the way his body flows and his athleticism, how effortless it is.
I like how you describe that. The way his body flows. Like it kind of doesn't make sense the way he moves.
Yeah.
But there's a fluidity to it. It's like a river going downhill, Yeah. And then it's like, oh no, it's veering this way.
Yeah.
There's actually when I was with the Pelicans, there's a movie made on Drew.
Oh well.
And Drew's a great defender. It was like kind of in transition. He did a spin move on Drew. Drew completely went for it, like juked him, completely juked him. And then I was coming over to try to take a charge, and I made a business decision. And Markelle dunked. But you see glimpses of like the player, and obviously he's still working through some stuff. And I've talked to him a bunch since his knee injury, and he's coming back from that. But man, that he's talented, bro.
Oh,
he's incredible. So talented.
I can't wait for him to just get like a solid chunk where he's injury free.
Yeah.
And just allows himself to build on, get back to where he was.
When do you feel like you sort of figured out the mental side of defense? Like your instincts like caught up with your physical ability?
Oh, I think that's an interesting question. I feel like the instincts kind of came first, if that makes any sense. When I was really young, whatever reason, I just had a knack for it. Like when kids, like in 5th grade, you put in like a full court zone, like you never expect it to work, but like they put me in the middle, like as a free safety in the middle of this, like kids couldn't get past half court. And like, I have no, at this point I'm playing basketball because like what my friends are doing. Like I have no idea how I'm doing or what I'm doing, but it started really young. for some reason.
It's crazy. One of the articles.
Get the ball.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the articles we were reading on the way down here about you, they compared you to Ed Reed, the football safety from the Ravens. He's like one of the best. But the whole thing was like, he's just a ball hawk. He's the guy they just stick him in the middle. He doesn't really guard anybody. But the quarterbacks always know, like, if you throw it anywhere in the vicinity, he's probably going to get near it in some way. And so it's interesting that came naturally, because like it doesn't come naturally to most people.
Yeah, my dad. I've told this story in other interviews, but like, my dad, when I was young, kind of just told me, well, if you play good defense, there's a place for you on every team. And this is coming from a man who's born and raised in Haiti, like played soccer growing up, was like a track to gymnast, like has no idea anything about basketball. And like trying to give me advice. As I got older, it became like a problem within our relationship. But like as a kid, you listen to your dad, your parents know everything. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just play hard defense. And it worked out. Thanks, Dad.
It sounds like, because this was actually, I'm glad Tommy brought this up, and I'm glad you answered the way you did, because like one of the questions I had about defense was like the key to defense, right? And when I think of you, I think of instinct. And I'm curious if you think it's possible to be like a really high level individual defender without the physical tools. The size, the strength, the length, some mobility and stuff. At our level. I'm not talking about high school basketball. I'm saying at our level.
I don't think so, because like I compensate for a lot of what I lack physically. Like I'm a pretty long, gangly dude. Like I'm not super strong, and a lot of times I'm matched up against guys who have that advantage over me, but I can make up for it with like instincts, long arms. Like my arms make up, like this is 90% of it right here.
Yeah.
And like, so for someone who doesn't have, like, at least for me to process it, I don't see how I do what I do without I hit the genetic lottery. Like, without some of these features that I was blessed with.
It's very similar to Cove.
Yeah.
You know, Robert Covington. Cove was the same way. Like, Cove was not the quickest guy. His feet were not great.
Yeah.
But, like, if you beat him off the dribble, there was a 50-50 chance that he was going to back tap. It's unbelievable. And, like, you talk about, like, you know, the defensive RPM metric, and you're up there too, of course. It's like, how many deflections can you get in a game?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
How many steals can you get? Like, Cove is so valuable because of that. When you talk about instinct, have you found that there's a learning curve in the NBA? Like when you first enter the league versus now? Like, because I know some of it is like just go out there and guard, but some of it you have to have some level of intellect and understanding of concepts. Yeah. You have to be on the same page with everybody else on your team.
Yeah. That was like, Brett Brown had a tough task with like rookie Matisse, because I was trying to go for every steal. Like, because when I got to the Sixers, we started playing and stuff, I was getting a bunch of steals. It's open gym, but I'm playing against NBA players. And I'm like thinking, oh, so this is what it's going to be like. And that mentality that kind of trickled over. And yeah, it was a fine line. And it's definitely a work in progress, but it's fine. It's like tiptoeing that fine line of essentially, a lot of the times when I make plays, it's because I've done something wrong. And as you know, in the NBA, like, it's only a bad shot if you miss. It's only a bad gamble if you don't get it. So for me, trying to learn that and get tricks from vets, or like getting to a feel for players' tendencies or just plays in general, that's helped me a lot and able to be less of a liability out there.
Does your mind, because you have to guard multiple positions and multiple skill sets, does your mindset change at all if you're guarding, let's say, Trae Young versus a catch and shoot guy, or versus getting switched onto a bigger defender? Like, how do you think about sort of managing that instinct from taking over?
Yeah, it's a discipline thing. Like with a Trae Young, with like those guys who are crafty with the ball, like those are where like I have to be extremely disciplined. And that's when like the mistakes, those gambles that I make and I don't get, where they become like coach's worst nightmare. And like I get berated for them. But when I'm guarding someone who has a simpler skill set, and like not to take away from any players, but like this is a league where like, you get really good at one thing and then you just do that thing Case in point. That's doing really, really well.
You can have a job for a long time.
I was gonna say,
make a lot of money. So for me, when I'm guarding guys like that, that's where I can open up the gambling door a little bit more, because I can gamble to force you into positions you don't want to be in. Whether it's like being extremely aggressive off a pin down to force you to dribble and like try to make a play, where I'm going to be back tapping and trying to block everything from behind. And honestly, that's a little bit more fun for me. But like the real challenge comes from being able to sit down and like fight every urge in my body to just be a solid defender with these crafty guys.
Did you have a guy, probably your rookie year, who just lit you up and you were like, everything I'm trying nothing is working?
My leash was really short, so I didn't get a chance. It was short and it changed, it fluctuated, but like I wouldn't have a chance to really get cooked out there. Like as much as like you want to be able to prove yourself, like if it started to go downhill, like I got a couple quick fouls and they could see that, okay, he's gonna fall for every fake. They just be like, okay, you're not today. So I didn't really, guys definitely got the better of me, but I didn't have a chance to really let them just go all the way through with it.
Did you guard, when I first came back with the Pelicans, did you guard me at all that game? I know Tobias started on me, which was odd. It was an odd choice.
I remember that.
And then Ferk guarded me a little bit, and I remember getting James Ennis with a shot fake. Got him up in the air and got fouled. But I don't remember you checking me.
Maybe for like a possession. Yeah. Maybe.
I probably drew a foul and you probably got yanked is probably what happened.
Honestly, I don't think they trusted me. Like I think that's what it was. Like pump fakes are like when you dangle like some gold in front of someone. Like I don't think they trusted me.
That's so funny. Let's take a step back, and I'm very curious about this. Your upbringing and your experience. You can kind of go into detail, but general understanding is that you were born in Arizona, you moved to Australia at a young age, and then you moved back to Washington. And I'm very curious about your experience in Australia for those 7 years of your childhood.
Yeah. It's funny. I was born in Arizona, but I have more like memories of Australia because we moved when I was so young. I don't know. When you're a kid, I was trying to, I spent a lot of time at the Olympics defending my Australian hood because everyone's like, he's this phony, this poser. You lived there like for a week as a kid. No, but as a kid, all you understand is what you have in front of you. So even though I was born in Arizona, like I didn't have a frame of reference. So like Australia, when we lived there, was normal. So like I now try to put like my adult perspective on like my childhood brain, and it doesn't really work because like I was used to like Santa Claus on a surfboard, and I was used to having beaches and ocean and like being able to do that kind of stuff regularly. It wasn't a luxury. It wasn't anything more than just normal kid life. Like we would scooter to school, and then after school, my mom would want to go swim. So we'd go to the beach and she'd let us just play in puddles, and she would do her laps in the ocean. Like it was, yeah, I wish I could romanticize it more than that and make it this deep, meaningful thing. But like I said, I was a kid. I didn't know any better than what was in front of me.
Did you play any basketball in Australia as a kid?
No. When we moved back from Australia, my dad gave me this ultimatum. He was like, you need to be a swimmer or a basketball player. Because I came from Australia having had only done swimming, and then came to the States and was now trying to be a basketball player. And however old I was, 8-year-old me was now having to decide his future. 8-year-old me did a good job.
How good were you as a swimmer?
You picked a good sport.
Yeah. I mean, I was a kid. It was just something I liked. I loved it, and I still do. Like the ocean is a very like sacred, special place for me, and it's just where I felt comfortable and happy. And as a kid, and as a parent, you just want your kids to be happy, so you put them in that position to just experience as much of that as possible.
Could somebody be like a Bojack? Could you be like a basketball player and a swimmer? You know what I mean? It's like such a different. It's not like it's an injury risk.
Wasn't Tim Duncan?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Elite. He was elite.
He was. They said that was like his off-season workouts.
Yeah,
which is swimming.
Yeah, and I couldn't even imagine. He's a massive. Like he's got some long levers. He could really move in the water, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think he was a swimmer growing up, and I think because of a hurricane, that's why he ended up coming like to the mainland states because he grew up in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And he ended up coming, to the continent, continental United States, and started playing basketball then. But yeah, he was apparently elite. Your Wikipedia page, like I generally don't go on guys' Wikipedia pages, but I always like to go for like little nuggets of things on somebody's Wikipedia page. Yeah. And it wasn't anything earth-shattering, but there was one little blurb in there that said you couldn't make a layup consistently till 8th grade. I was like, I need an explanation on this.
How is that put on a Wikipedia page?
I don't know. It's such a random thing to put on someone's Wikipedia page.
I'm going to send a strongly worded email to Wikipedia. I mean, yeah, no, I could not. I had this, like, it was a problem, right? So like steals were something that came very naturally to me when I was young. So it would, God, this is bringing back nightmares. So I really couldn't, like, I would run so fast because I just wanted to get to the rim. And then the ball would just bounce off the backboard so hard. And I had no way of controlling it. And it became this thing where it was like, I would get a steal, miss a layup, and give it right back to him. And then it became this fear of like, I wanted a steal so bad and I would get it. And now it's just like me in the hoop. And it's like, oh,
you had a mental block on layups as a child.
How tall were you?
I was probably like, I don't know, 5, like a little under 6 foot. Like,
but were you dunking at all or no?
By summer of my 8th grade year, I could dunk. But up until
you were doing like 2-hand board taps. You were smacking the backboard while you laid it in?
No.
You're doing a soft layup off the backboard?
Well, it was pinging off the backboard. Like, you know, like it was really scary. Like, it was. Like, it's first of all the shame that goes into missing a fast break layup. Like every basketball player's done it, feels it, and knows it. Yeah. And I was doing this to myself multiple times a game.
Multiple.
It is kind of funny that you're just stealing the ball and then doing it over and over again. Where they're just like, all right, let him go try.
So
I'm envisioning like being a 7th grader at one of Matisse's AU tournaments on an opposing team and like showing up to the gym an hour early to get ready for my game and like watching the game. You know, you stand over in the corner with your team, you watch this game before you. And I'm like, there's this kid, he keeps getting steals.
Ripping everything.
There's people all over the country who watch this kid get steals and miss multiple layups a game.
I was like terrified. It, like, to like try and counter, I just would try to like slow down as much as I could, and then like just do that like mic-in layup, and that was like kind of my solution until I could.
A mic-in layup?
Like, you know, like when you do the George Mikan drill where you're under the hoop, just like stationary layup. Like I would just try and sprint to the hoop, slow down. If I could stop.
Do a reverse?
No, but just like try to get there and just like right there. Jeez.
So when you were in Washington, were you in like the Seattle basketball scene, or was it like different?
Yeah, I got, by like my senior year, summer of my junior year, I got some sort of, like, I don't know if it's respect. I don't really consider it that. I just got like acknowledged for my skills in basketball by that time. But up until then, no one knew I even existed. And then by the time I get to Washington, it helped that I had like DeJounte Murray coming in with me, and he was like Seattle's golden child. He was the baby Jamal Crawford, and like I got to be his like counterpart a little bit and ride that wave.
The Seattle basketball scene is really good. I know Jamal does the pro-am this thing every summer, but like talk about like punching above your weight in terms of like size of city versus like number of like really good pros that have come from there.
Yeah, I don't see how.
Yeah, it's not just that. There's been like so many guys who have been really good. Like the high school scene.
Yeah.
Like Mercer. I know Mercer Island is not technically Seattle, but like there's a high school scene out there. There's so many good teams and good players that end up at high level colleges or have a cup of coffee in the NBA. Tommy's. I mean, you're spot on. It's like it punches above its weight class.
Yeah, it is pretty cool in that sense. It's funny. Like it's like the Northwest's best kept secret is like the basketball scene. Like no one really respects. Like it's all California on the West Coast.
Who is a better high school basketball scene over the last 20 years, Seattle or New York?
I thought you were going to say Seattle or Roanoke. I mean, there's still a question.
Have you ever heard of Roanoke? Do you know what Roanoke is?
You never heard of Roanoke?
Don't ask me where it is on a map, but I've heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good answer.
Thank you. Jeez, man. Seattle, for sure. We talked about this years ago on the pod with Mo Bamba. and I think I brought it up with Kemba too, but it's like
New York,
basically from my class on, like there hasn't been, maybe Lenny Cook, who was either my class or directly after me with LeBron, but Lenny was my class. But it's like there hasn't been a ton of New York prep, like guys from New York. Joe Kim and like, I guess Kemba technically, Mo Bamba technically.
Taj Gibson.
Taj,
there's like a few, but there's not
been
a lot.
but there's not a lot. There's really not a lot. I want to ask you about Tobias. I'm fascinated by your relationship with him. No, I am. Tobias is obviously a friend of the show, great friend of mine. Love the guy.
I don't like how like
there's
PC
like
you're being.
No, it seems like there's like you guys have like a really good camaraderie. Is it especially maybe initially, was it a little bit like a big brother little brother thing?
Absolutely. That's what he does. He does that extremely well.
Be a big brother.
Yeah, I mean, Tobias is like I love you, Tobias. Tobias is a bit of a grandpa. Like he has like an older, like old man feel to him, even though he's like, people don't realize how young he is just because of that I don't know, that part of him. And so yeah, when I got in, he like took me under his wing, and like I said, he's a great role model, and he does a really good job of doing that.
He very much prefers to be the one handing out life advice, as opposed to the opposite. Like he really enjoys being right. You know, he really enjoys giving out sage wisdom in all his old manness. It's really quite fascinating. Yeah, you guys had some great.
I was gonna say you could sense this relationship a little bit with
some like deeper stuff in there.
Just talk about it. We're sitting here.
I'm only teasing.
Wait, was he there for the wine story with Tobias?
No,
that's my favorite story.
No, he was not
on this podcast.
At the table.
Oh,
it was like Kyle O'Quinn.
This was in the bubble though, right?
This was in the bubble, yeah.
This was JJ being an asshole to Tobias.
No, he brought some wine that he was particularly excited about sharing with me. I also brought some heat that night, and Tobias decided he got good wine, but he decided not to invest in like $180 12-bottle wine fridge for the 2 months he was in the bubble, and it's fucking Orlando. And so, number one, the room is not exactly temperature controlled. No. Number two, your hotel was like the last stop. My hotel was like the next last stop. So it was like a 45-minute shuttle to my hotel. So by the time the wine got to me for dinner, it was like 72 degrees. It was like drinking warm coffee. Like, I don't want to. So
the way that Tobias described the story very briefly is that he had been telling all of your teammates and different friends, whatever, how he was so into wine, like this was his big thing, and all this stuff. And so he's like really excited about this wine, and everyone else who's drinking it sort of doesn't know that much about wine. It's like, yeah, it's fine. Gives it to JJ. JJ like spits it out, and it's like, this is disgusting. It just embarrasses him. And so for the rest of the time, he like couldn't talk about wine with anybody because JJ just blew this guy's spot up. He could have just been like a nice friend and just been like, tell him afterwards, hey, by the way, like maybe you should do this.
Truthfully, I was being a nice friend. I'm going to tell you why.
Why?
Because a true friend tells the truth. A true friend doesn't just accommodate. A true friend tells the truth. And if Tobias is going to go and spend money on a nice bottle of wine, he should at least serve it at the correct temperature.
If you want to ever show him, just make sure either there's no one else present or that it's really good.
Really, got it. No.
So there's obviously the Chick-fil-A viral video or it was Chick-fil-A or Popeyes?
It was both.
Okay, both. Tobias getting on you about not having the correct order. My favorite video of y'all is the warm-up video in Cleveland where you're mimicking his entire warm-up routine, shot for shot. Like that's just good stuff right there. That's the content I need.
Yeah, I mean, it's the wholesome stuff that is really the good stuff. No, he's an easy target in that sense. But like, yeah, it was just like a fun, I guess, the seasons get long. And like, I was very shocked by how like the monotony of it at times. And I would have to do stuff like that to stay entertained. Cause like as goofy as it seems, like it allows me to be engaged and then locked in. So like doing little things, I keep doing it, but it's like, even in practice in college, I'd be like standing on the sideline, like doing weird stuff, because like you start to check out, and like unless you find fun, it's hard to like tune back in.
Your draft class, by the way, speaking of being engaged during the season, your draft class has not had a full NBA season yet.
No, we have not.
You have not had a normal NBA season.
I've no
you
idea
got a
what
taste
NBA is
for
like.
it your rookie year.
Yeah.
Up until March 11th.
Yeah.
That's like a normal season, but then obviously we only played 72 games or whatever it was.
What was your first interaction with Joel like?
Ooh. I think
Another friend of the show. Shout out to
friend of the
Joel.
show. I think it was in passing onto the court. Like just like a high five and a smile type thing. But I will say, the first time we played, I don't even know if he remembers this, but I do. I still have the lump to show for it. He set a screen, like he's setting a screen on, I don't know, Tobias, and I was guarding him, and he led with his elbows, and I like blindsided me, elbowed me in the back of the head, and then just like moseyed on, like didn't even check to see if I was okay. Like the practice stopped, like, and I was like, what? Like this is the same guy that just smiled at me and like was so like warm, and he has that, and that is Joel, if anyone knows him.
He doesn't know his own strengths sometimes.
No.
But sometimes he does. I remember the first time, so Joel was like hurt all preseason. He was not cleared to play because he was coming off, I think, a meniscus, my first year, a meniscus injury from the previous season. And I remember in preseason, like the first practice he participated in, and we were on the same team, and he set a screen on Jared Bayless, and he like swallowed him. And I was so open. I missed it. I might have airballed the shot. Like I was so open. I was just like, I've never been that open on a ball screen in my life. And I was like, oh, this is going to be an amazing partnership.
Yeah. No, he's one of those guys that, and there's a bunch of them in the league, but like you love to have on your team and like you hate to play against them.
Yeah. Did you sense a big difference with him this year than your rookie year? Because he came on the show in the bubble, and he talked a little bit about being frustrated early on in your rookie year with some of the whatever personnel decisions, Jimmy leaving, all that stuff, and it seemed like this year from the start of the season on, it was like a different Joel than we saw for most of your rookie year and in the bubble.
Yeah, no, the first year I didn't really understand what had happened or like transpired, so I couldn't really place what he was going through, but it was almost night and day into my second year. Even just anyone who was in and around the gym leading into the season was like, Joel's in the best shape he's ever been in. Like Joel's been working out so hard. Joel this, Joel that. Like, and he looked incredible. Like you'd see him out there working out, and he just looked like he's one of those guys where like when he's in or out of shape, it's very apparent in his body, and you could just see he was on this other type of mission. And I think part of it, from what like my understanding was like having a kid, was like it kind of sparked that like whatever it was that was frustrating him the year before is not actually relevant. Like I have a life. I just brought it. Like, I mean, whatever it meant actually for him, but I think that was like a catalyst for him and in his change for that. And he just became, the drive that he had was not what I saw my first year.
That's really interesting. I think fatherhood changes us for sure. I agree with that. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to ask him about that.
You should.
I want to his like dominance. Like it's a little bit of a throwback, I think, in the sense that he's super skilled. He makes incredible shots from the perimeter. He's a good ball handler, but there's a little bit of a throwback vibe to his game in that he really uses his body a la like a Shaq. And it like almost doesn't exist in our league anymore. It's such a skill-based league and not so much like a brute force league. And Joel is a little bit of a throwback in that sense.
Yeah, he's like a really like a beautiful meld of two eras, like because he has both. He has the brute force and he has the finesse, and that's what makes him so dominant. But it is like there's almost times, honestly, as like one of his teammates where you wish that he would turn on the brute force a little bit more, just because there are no answers for that. But that's not always what's fun or what's sexy, or honestly, longevity is also a big thing for him, and that's like grueling on your body. But yeah, there's times like, because we would play opposite minutes. Like I would be in the second unit, so I got to watch a lot of Joel Embiid highlights during the season, and it was like I would honestly feel bad at times, like especially when like he's playing through like the whole first quarter or whatever, and second unit guys start subbing in, and now you have whoever's backup center subbing in to size up Joel Embiid, and Joe feeds off that kind of stuff.
And he lets them know.
Oh my goodness!
What did you make of? You're a rookie and you join a team with championship aspirations, and the franchise player in your first season on the team is getting booed by the home crowd. That had to have been a little surreal.
I didn't get it, because people told me Philly fans are tough, whatever. Like I had no frame of reference. I had no concept for what that actually meant. So when we got out there and they start booing, I was like, I didn't think anything of it, because I'm like, well, obviously they're booing the other team. And then like as it went on, I was like, the boos aren't timing up right with what the other team's doing right now. And I was like, these guys are booing. I didn't know what to make of it. It honestly is more entertaining for me than anything, like, because that's just Philly, and it kind of set the tone for what to expect. But I think it's awesome.
Have you been booed yet?
Probably. I've been heckled heavily at our home games by courtside fans. But
what is the heckling? Is it about you gambling on defense, or like is it a shooting thing? Like what is it?
Yeah, it's like shoot, Thybulle, like get up another shot. Like what are you doing? Like stop passing the ball. And I'm like, obviously, like I'm settled in at home in the corner, and like this is where I'm meant to be for the play. So I can't do anything. I can't defend my honor from this guy standing on the court yelling at me, and then just have to sit there and take it. Like
that's literally probably my top 3 pet peeve for me. Top 3 pet peeve for me in my career was when I was having, let's say, an off night. Actually, Tobias and I have talked about this before. If I go 5 for 18, that's an off night. If I go 2 for 6, that's you didn't call enough plays for me night. And so when you're a role player like I was for 15 years and like you are on offense now, like you're so much of your production is dictated on what plays the coach is calling and the other team's defensive scheme. But my pet peeve is when people in the crowd would be like, JJ, shoot the ball.
Shoot it.
And I'm like, I've got to have the fucking ball to shoot it.
Yes. I mean, that's the epitome of fans. Like, they're just like, they just want to see something, like do something cool.
Yeah.
It's like,
be engaged on offense. And you're like, well, the play for me on this particular play is to stand my ass in the corner. There's really nothing for me to do here. And by the way, I'm not allowed to go to the offensive boards. I never was on any team. My job was to get back on defense. So like, whatever. Used to drive me crazy.
You get the one play. If it's not for you, maybe next time.
There's big news from my favorite home security company. Simply Safe just launched their new wireless outdoor security camera. That's right, Simply Safe, the system that U.S. News and World Report names Best Home Security System of 2021, just got even better. This brand new outdoor security camera is engineered with all the advanced tech and security features you want and need to help keep you and your family safe. It has an ultra-wide 140-degree field of view, so you can keep watch over your entire yard. It has 1080p HD resolution with an 8x zoom. You heard that right. 1080p HD resolution with an 8x zoom. That means you can zoom in and clearly see things like faces and license plates to capture critical evidence. It has a built-in spotlight with color night vision, so you can keep an eye on what's going on day and night. It's super simple to set up and usually takes minutes. This camera has it all, and it integrates with your Simply Safe home security system, extending its protection to the outside. To learn more about the exciting new Simply Safe wireless outdoor security camera, visit simplysafe.com/JJ. What's more, Simply Safe is celebrating this new camera by offering 20% off your entire new system and your first month of monitoring service free when you enroll in interactive monitoring. Again, that's simplysafe.com/JJ. And for our listeners, 20% off your entire new system and your first month of monitoring free when you enroll in interactive monitoring. That's a hell of a deal. We all settle for traditional retail sizes, but why? What does a medium person look like? How can two people wear a medium when they're different heights? Pants are made to fit one type of body, and everyone else has to settle for a less than perfect fit. That's why you've got to check out Public Rec. They make elevated athleisure wear in multi-dimensional sizes because they believe that comfort starts with a better fit. Their best-selling all-day, everyday pant is available in over 40 different sizing combinations and can fit men anywhere from 5'8" to nearly 7 feet tall. Public Rec spent years engineering the perfect blend of softness, stretch, and durability. It's all the performance benefits you love with the added style for more formal occasions. They also have zipper pockets, so no more having your phone or wallet fall out when you sit down. They come in 9 different colors, one for each day of the week, and then some. Public Rec also makes elevated shorts, t-shirts, polos, jackets, even golf gear, and they just launched their women's line, so now anyone listening to this can enjoy Public Rec's better fitting comfort. These are always the top choice in my rotation, and I don't just say that because I'm reading an ad. I actually bought this product before they sponsored the podcast. It is incredible. I love these pants. Public Rec rarely discounts, but right now they have an exclusive offer just for Old Man and the Three listeners. Go to publicrec.com and use promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, to receive 10% off. That's publicrec.com and use our promo code OLDMAN for 10% off. The little things we do all add up to the legacy we leave behind. Boll and Branch was started by a husband and wife team. Boll and Branch was started by a husband and wife team that wanted to create a textile company that cared about the details that would make their products last. And you'll feel the difference in their best-selling, beautifully crafted signature sheets. Their smoothness, softness, and weight are unmatched. I'm telling you, I've slept in these and they are so comfortable, and the styles are great too. Their sheets are crafted to the highest standards and have incredible attention to detail. And they have the perfect balance of weight and breathability to pamper warm or cool sleepers through any season. There are no middlemen between you and Boll and Branch, so you get luxury quality for the fairest price. And they also stand behind their products by honoring a 30-night worry-free guarantee if you are unsatisfied. To experience an entirely new standard of comfort, visit bollandbranch.com and get 15% off your first set of sheets with the promo code OLDMAN. That's BOLL and branch.com. Boll, BOLL, and branch.com. Promo code OLDMAN.
Is it weird going from, like, we were talking about Washington earlier, about how there just wasn't a lot of national attention. There wasn't a lot of heat around the program. I mean, it wasn't on national TV very much, just good players, but it just kind of flew under the radar. To, like, with Philly, for better or for worse, there's always drama. There's always something, and we're in the middle of something now, but there's going to be something in 2 months. There's every year he was there was something. It's like it's sort of a foregone conclusion that was going to happen. Was that something you were prepared for when you started having those conversations, or you just kind of figured it out when you got here?
No, I think I just started to get a feel for it. I mean, when you have a fan base that's so engaged and cares so much, like, media outlets need to cater to that, right? And so if there's no story, so you got to stir some shit up. So
go find a story.
It's like, yeah, you got to go find, and if there isn't one to find, you got to make one. And so it's like, you can't really fault, like, who is there to fault? Like, it's part of the game, and Philly just does it at a very high level.
It do it at a high level, and I would say I would take the Philly approach over the apathetic approach of just not being engaged. Yeah. I actually didn't realize that sports radio was still a thing in the United States until I got to Philly. I was like, oh, people still listen to sports radio every morning.
There was one time I was going to Chick-fil-A to get my rookie year to get the chicken for everyone on the plane, and I'm standing in line, and this woman's standing behind me, and she's like, "Oh, are you Matisse?" I'm like, "Yeah, hi, nice to meet you." And she's like, "Don't listen to what they're saying on the radio." And I was like so perplexed, because I'm like, what do you mean what they're saying what's happening on the radio?
What is radio?
I was so confused.
I had a driver my second year who would shuttle me up and down the New Jersey Turnpike. And there were so many, like, I had this stretch in March where, like, I just did not play well. I probably my best year of my career, my second year, but, like, just had a stretch in March where I couldn't make a shot. And I just remember like one morning getting in the car and he starts like, he's like, you know, they were talking about you on the radio this morning. And as soon as like he said it, I was like, Mark, shut up, man. Like, I don't want to hear anything. Like, please, God, no. Sometimes they don't have to find a story. Sometimes the story is just there, as is the case with one of your teammates right now. I'm not going to put you in a tough spot right now. We'd probably be a little disingenuous of us not to at least ask you about Ben and sort of what he's going through right now. My only sort of question is, do you think that like the Sixers, and I'm not going to single anybody out, but do you think the Sixers could have handled the end of last postseason a little bit better? It seemed from the outside like Ben was kind of thrown under the bus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to be said. And to the last point you just made, he was thrown under the bus. Like, you asked me if I'd been booed or people been mad at me. Like, I made the foul that ended that lost us the last game, and I received almost no. Like, there's a little bit on Twitter, but like the Ben hate was so much louder that it
had been growing though.
Yeah, but it's just to build the frame of reference. Like, it was, I lost us the game, and which lost us the series, and no one really spoke about it. But they wanted to talk about the passing up the dunk and passing it to me more than my foul. And anyways, but I think that both sides play a decent role in it, right? Like, neither side's really helped themselves through the situation. Whether whoever started it, whoever's making it worse at this point, doesn't really matter. But like, either side has played a pretty decent role in the situation that we find ourselves in right now. And like, on a human level, as like his teammate, like as a friend, you hate to see people put in this situation that's so heavily covered by the media, because people lose sight of this human aspect of all of us as athletes, especially in these times, especially in controversial times where we're looked at as like it's a commodity. I don't even know exactly like what people consider us in these moments, but it's not as humans. And like, just so on a personal level, I really do feel for him, because this would suck for anybody.
Yeah, I typically don't agree with like the both sides claim, but I would say, like, you know, and I'm friends with Ben and I had him as a teammate and loved him as a teammate. Like, he probably could do more to help himself, especially ingratiate himself a little bit with certain people. But you know, I also think that it's like, it's one of those things that comes with playing here and comes with being a max player. I guess my problem with the entire situation is that I feel like at this, I'm going to defend Ben a little bit, and I've said this on the podcast before. I feel like at times people just can't appreciate Ben for who he is as a player. Like, we can't appreciate Ben's greatness for Ben's greatness. And that's not to say he's blameless in any of this. But we haven't gotten to the point where, like, Ben is a great player. Here's what he's great at. Let's just appreciate that. We want to nitpick the things that he doesn't do that we all want him to do. And I don't think that's fair to Ben. Again, Ben's not blameless, but I don't think that's been fair to Ben.
No, that's a very, that's your Philly thing though. That's like a very Philly thing. One of my like good friends, he's like pretty active on Twitter, Nate Jones on the NBA.
Yeah, it's our guy.
Yeah, it's our guy,
you guys know Nate?
We know Nate.
Yeah, an amazing guy. And that's one of the things that he's been consistently saying, is that like, we're overlooking the fact that, just disregard like some of the things you just said, like the fact that a number one pick panned out as much as he did. Like, that's not even the case all the time. And like, people lose sight of that. But it's like, to have someone who's so dominant and just happens to lack a few skills that not every NBA player even has, and to be like highlighted more than his true strengths, is just, it really doesn't make sense. But that's the sports world for you.
Well, I was going to ask, when we were talking about defense earlier, I mean, we've talked about this in the show with a bunch of different guys. Some of the stuff he does defensively is, you know, on a different level than anybody else in the league. And I'm curious how much you've learned from him, just in terms of, you know, you're coming into this and you had this skill set in college and in high school and everything like that. But you've basically been fortunate to be able to watch somebody like this who has a couple years of, you know, advancement on you and has done this at such a high level.
Yeah, he's one of the examples of like the physical ability, right? Like his ability to just flip a switch and lock down an entire court is like nothing I've ever seen. Because he's 6'10" and runs like a gazelle. I've watched him pin Luka to the half court line. Like, and that's not, Luka's a big dude and he's a very skilled guard. Like that's unheard of. Like he's done things that it's like you could never teach that to anyone. And like that's not something you could even like develop over the course of your career. Like he has the ability to do things that a lot of players will never be able to do.
We should talk about the Olympics. Do you have memories? Do you have any stories or memories from it that maybe not in the vlog, but that you're especially proud of or just thought were interesting?
FIBA basketball is interesting. And seeing NBA players in FIBA basketball is even more interesting. Like Patty Mills being a perfect example of that. Like I watched, like you and Patty have similar roles, yeah? Or had.
Yeah.
Like, but you see him in FIBA and he's like, I don't know, Steph Curry, a small Michael Jordan. Like he does everything, like, and he's doing it nonstop. And it was like, everyone was warning me, like, not warning me, but like telling me leading into it, all the guys on the team, like, you've never seen FIBA Patty. You don't know what, like FIBA. And I'm like, we're still playing basketball. He does this. I've seen him play 82 games as Patty Mills.
It's pretty wild though. There are players, and it goes the other way too.
Oh yeah.
There are NBA guys that would struggle in FIBA.
Yeah.
And then there's NBA guys who go to FIBA and they're like role players, and then they're just absolute studs on their home team.
Yeah.
You know, and Patty's a great example. By the way, Patty is like, this is weird to say because I didn't guard him a ton. But like in my career, Patty is one of the hardest people I've had to guard.
Oh my God.
Because it's sort of like guarding yourself in a way. He just doesn't stop fucking moving. And Pop is so like smart about drawing up ATOs for him. Yeah. Like head on a swivel guarding Patty Mills after, you know, when he was with San Antonio after an ATO.
Yeah, miserable. That was my assignment. That's a miserable assignment. That's one of the ones where it's like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's going to be fun. It's just a shooter. But I stop paying attention, and now he's come off of a pin down. They get into a stack action, and he's flared out, and he's sitting butt naked on the 3-point line, and Doc's looking at me, and I'm looking at him like, so. like it's, yeah.
Well, Matisse, this has been awesome. We really appreciate the time. I do have one last thing to ask you before you leave. Can you just confirm that Joe Ingles is the biggest asshole maybe in the NBA?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. But he's also like the biggest sweetheart. It's the craziest polarity. Like he is an asshole, but he is also the greatest.
Yeah, I agree.
Incredible.
One of the first texts I got this morning actually was from Joe. Yeah,
really?
Yeah. We talk all the time, but like he sent me a really heartfelt message. It was pretty dope.
No, he's good at that. I used to ask him.
Yeah, but he is a dick on the court. Like
well, off the court too.
Yeah.
It's a heartfelt message.
Yeah. No doubt. All right, Matisse, appreciate it, bro.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. This is fun.